All right, fifth graders, today is Monday, September 23rd. It feels like a long time since I've seen you, but I know you've been busy learning and practicing your math. Today we're going to take a departure away from, it's related, but it's a little bit different too. Last week we spent a lot of time practicing how to multiply decimals. We used place value charts, we used area models, we used estimation, and we used unit form. We learned 4 different strategies for how to multiply decimals. Okay? This week is all about dividing decimals, and we're going to divide decimals by whole numbers. So you can see today we're doing Eureka Math Module 1, Lesson 13. And by the end of today, you should be able to explain how you can use what you know about place value to divide a decimal by a whole number. Okay? What that means is you're going to have a decimal, and it's going to be divided by a whole number. Does that make sense? Now, before we even talk about the problem of the day, I want to talk about this for a second. If we're going to have a decimal divided by a whole number, there's 3 different parts in a division equation. There's the first number, which is in this case going to be a decimal. Then there's the number that you're dividing it by, and then there's the answer. Okay? Each of these parts has a name. The first part, the first number, the whole that you, before you chop it up, before you divide it, we call that the whole. Some people call it the dividend, but we're calling it the whole. So go ahead and start taking math notes by writing down that number is the whole. The number that you're dividing it by is called the divisor. Okay? And the answer is called the quotient. So today we're going to have decimal wholes. Sounds weird because decimal is the opposite of whole numbers, but we're having a whole that will have a decimal in it. We're going to divide it. Our divisor is a whole number, and then our answer is the quotient. Okay? So when I have a division equation like this, 16 divided by 4 equals 4. What is the whole? 16. What is the divisor?
4.
What is the quotient?
4.
Good. It's very important that you know these math terms. Since today we're embarking on this new journey about division, we have to first understand, why in life do we divide? What does division even mean? Go ahead and talk to your partner again. And I want you, I want you to talk about when in life, or like the word problems, the story problems, the real world problems you've encountered, when have you had to do division? What does division even mean? Go ahead and talk to your partner. You guys have a lot of experience with division and math and real life. When I was walking around the room listening to your conversations, I heard people say, oh, well, one time we had to do division, or in real life you have to do division, if you have a cake and you have to divide it into different groups. So like, let's say there's 3 people who want to eat that cake. They each have 1/3 of it. So dividing can mean sharing. Someone else said, oh, I have 18 stickers and 6 people want to share the stickers equally. How many people, or how many stickers does each person get? 18 divided by 6 equals 3. So one time we use division is when we want to share things equally. Someone else said, actually another time we use division is when we want to make equal groups. If I say I have 18 kids and there are 6 chaperones, how many people can be in each group? 3. So there's 2 different meanings of grouping. There can be 3, right? So there's 2 different ways we use division. One is when we want to share things equally, and the other one is when we want to put things into equal groups. Okay? I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of times the sharing one is what comes naturally to people. When you think about division, you're like, oh yeah, I have to share things equally. The grouping one, you've encountered before, but it's not as obvious to you. So I'm always going to point out to you if it's sharing or grouping. Okay? At first, because this might be the first time you've heard of these 2 different meanings of division, you might be like, what are you talking about, Miss O? But don't worry. Every time we have word problems, I'm going to ask you sharing or grouping, and by the end of module 2 or 3, I forget which one, you will be a pro at this. Okay? I just want to introduce you to those terms right now. The directions tell us to model these equations on a place value chart. So the first thing you're going to need to do, of course, is to set yourself up with a place value chart. Doesn't need to be fancy. Maybe just something like this would do. Go ahead and do that. The first question says 9/10 divided by 3. That means I have 9/10 altogether, and I want to share them equally or split them equally into 3 groups. Okay? So let's model that first. Let's model our whole. How many tenths do we have in the whole? 1. Okay, so let's draw them. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now I know I usually say I draw 5 across, but today I decided to draw 3 across. Because I want to divide them into 3 groups. My divisor is 3. So here's one group, here's 2 groups, and here's my 3rd group. My quotient, so my whole was 9/10. My divisor was I wanted to divide them into 3 groups, so I circled them into 3 separate groups. And for my quotient, I have to see how many are in each group. 1, 2, 3. There are 3 in each group. 3 what's in each group? 3/10. That's in unit form. And of course, in standard form, it's 0.3. Our next whole is 0.24. I could draw 2/10 and 4 hundredths. Sorry, I cannot do that. But what I could do is draw like this, right? And I could draw 2/10 and 4 hundredths. Do you agree? However, is that going to help us divide it into 6 groups? No. What would be more helpful? Drawing 24 hundredths. So go ahead and do that. I will do that too. Those 24 hundredths, I'm actually, because I know I have to do it into 6 groups, I'm going to go like this. Watch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 18. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 24. My knowledge of math facts helps me do that really fast. Then my divisor is 6. I want to divide it into 6 groups. Well, here's 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups, 4 groups, 5 groups, 6 groups. Because I did 6 groups across, it made it really easy to know that each of those columns was 1 group. Now to find my quotient, I just have to count how many are in each group. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4. And what place value position is it in? The hundredths. So my answer is 4 hundredths. Of course, in standard form, it's 0.04. Go ahead and try the last one. What is our last whole? 32,000. So I have to draw 32 dots in the thousands column. Because my divisor is 8, how many do I want to go across? It'll make it really easy to make 8 groups if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Next row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Keep going until you have 32, and then see how many are in each group. Go ahead. Look back at this previous slide. I made 6 groups of 4 hundredths, or I made 3 groups of 3/10. As I reminded you, division means putting things into groups. Yes? So, now, the directions say to complete the sentences with the correct number of units, then complete the equation. So, remember, when we divide, we are making equal groups. If I have 1.5, that's the same as how many tenths? 15 tenths, right? So 1.5 is the same thing as 15 tenths. If I want to make 3 groups of how many tenths would it make 15? 3 groups of 5 tenths is 15 tenths. So therefore, 1.5 divided by 3 is 5 tenths. Do you guys see that? If I divide 1.5 or 15 tenths into 3 groups, each group would have 5 tenths. So another way to say that is 3 groups of 5 tenths is 1.5. Go ahead and write that down. And then next to it, write this equation to show that the words are saying that equation. So because I know I'm trying to divide into equal groups of 3, it helps to divide, instead of thinking about 936 hundredths, it's easy to divide up the whole into parts that are divisible by 3 using what I know about math facts. For example, is 9 divided by 3? Can we do that? What about 3 divided by 3? Yeah. What about 6 divided by 3? Yeah. Okay, so we can think about this in 3 parts, the ones, the tenths, and the hundredths. Do you agree? Okay, because those are easy with math facts. So what we can do is we can think about this as 9 ones divided by 3. And we can add that, and we can think about the second part as 3 tenths divided by 3. And of course the last part would be 6 hundredths divided by 3. And we can think in our head, what's 9 ones divided by 3? What's 9 divided by 3? 3, and it's in the ones place. So what's 9 ones divided by 3? 3 ones. Okay. What is 3 tenths divided by 3? 1 tenth. So I can put a 1 in the tenths place. What's 6 hundredths divided by 3? 2 hundredths. So I need to put a 2 in the hundredths place. So you see how we can think about it one place value unit at a time to make it easier. That way we can still use what we know about math facts and we just apply what we know about place value. Make sense? Take a look at this next example. Okay, what is our whole? 3 and 55 thousandths. We could call it 355 hundredths if we wanted, right? What is our divisor? What are we dividing it by? 5. So that means we want to chop up or cut up this whole in ways that are compatible with the 5 using math facts. Okay, let's see if we can do the same thing we did before. Can we think of the ones 3 divided by 5? No, we don't know 3 divided by 5. That's not a math fact, is it? What if we do 35 divided by 5? Can we do that? Yeah. So that means, oh, what about 5 divided by 5? Okay, so what this means is we can think about it in 2 parts. We have 35 what's? Tenths. Okay, so we can think of it as 35 tenths divided by 5 added to 5 what's? Is it 5 thousandths? 5 hundredths. Good. Okay, so what's 35 tenths divided by 5? 7 what? Yeah, it's not 7, it's 7 tenths. So my quotient would be 7 tenths plus, what's 5 hundredths divided by 5? 1 what? Okay, so in unit form, I have 7 tenths plus 1 hundredth. How do I write that in standard form? Well, 7 tenths and 1 hundredth, 0.71. So I want to show you that you can use what you know about place value and use what you know about math facts to solve these division equations.